It's the August edition of the Lost and Foundry Show. Thanks for joining. Hey, if you joined us for the prayer walk this last Friday, it went fantastic. We're so thankful for those of you who showed up. The atmosphere was incredible. But, you didn't have to be there to continue praying for us. The summer campaign is over, but your prayers, we want them badly. So keep praying for us. You can join our monthly prayer group, and we put those calendars out on Facebook, so you can sign up there. Keep praying for us. Thank you for those who joined us. Another quick thing before we get into this podcast, our AL Leaders Summit is coming up soon, and we have a few more weeks left for you to sign up, either as an individual ticket to be at a table or to sponsor a table and to bring your influential friends to this incredible summit. You don't want to miss this one because we have a great speaker, Greg Sankey, Commissioner of the SEC. And now is the time to hear from the Commissioner of the SEC.
Perfect timing.
NIL.
Yeah.
It's been, lots to say about that. We got new teams coming to the SEC here soon. Yeah. And if out of all the sports world, we look to coaches a lot for leadership, but probably the most incredible leaders in the sports world are the commissioners.
That's right.
Because they have to balance the personalities of coaches. They have to balance the personalities of major universities and of people with money, financial interests.
That's right.
So they're kind of this, they take all the heat. They have to make the biggest decisions. They have to see the big picture, the little picture. So this guy's not someone you want to miss. If you care about leadership, if you care about the Foundry, if you care about Change Lives Christian Center, this is the perfect event to sponsor, to be a part of, to be there. It's at the Sheraton. You can go to foundryministries.com/AL Summit to learn more. I'll drop the link in the description as well. All right, let's get right into it. I've got Jacky here today. Jacky, how long have you been doing the men's program?
I've been doing the men's program collectively for about 15 years.
15 years. I think it says a lot about the Foundry as a ministry.
Yeah.
That Tawana has been doing it for 19 years.
That's right.
You've been doing it for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie's been doing it for 9.
Well, roughly, I think he's more than that, actually. I think he's more than 17.
Yeah. How long has the farm been up there?
So the farm's been there 11 years.
Okay. So, he's been a director for 11 years up there.
Yeah.
So, everybody who leads one of our core 3 programs has been around for over a decade leading those programs. Yeah. So I think it says a lot about the Foundry that we have established leadership leading the different programs. Every year we're improving these programs more and more.
Yeah.
And that can only happen with established leadership, right? You need people here who know the trends of what's changing in the industry.
Very true.
But you also need people who've seen it and done it.
That's right.
And can move us to the next step. And we got all of that at the Foundry. And like Eddie, you're someone whose experience comes from experience.
That's right. Yeah.
So
hard knocks experience for sure.
So let's go back and talk about how your life was affected by addiction.
Sure.
And your process of overcoming that.
So early on, I mean, just like a lot of stories, experiment with marijuana, alcohol. Just as some people would call a normal process for a teenager. It really ain't that normal. That kind of progressed into what you would say harder drugs. I think the opiate epidemic really started with Purdue Pharmaceuticals and OxyContin and the big bang that we had there. And so, blindly going into that as a teenager, something as harmless as a pharmaceutical pill that I started to take and started to abuse. And that led me down a probably about 11-year aggressive addiction that led me to IV drug use. Breaking down those pills, and since then they've been under a lot of law. They've been sued. The pharmaceutical company has, because of how easy that was to do. But once they removed that from the market, then the heroin epidemic began, and then the fentanyl as we know it is today. So that was kind of my process in addiction, just opioids and pain pills and heroin and those types of things, and it really took me down a dark road, just like it does anyone else, until I got to a point to where I met my rock bottom and decided, hey, look, I got to do something about this. Through multiple recovery programs, I think that I was led to the Foundry by God in 2008, and so been here ever since, and couldn't be happier. But that was kind of my process when it comes to addiction.
A lot of people, they come through the program and they graduate successfully, and some people run away from here as fast as they can.
Yeah.
Want to put this part of their life behind them.
That's right.
But what drove you to say, I want to stick around here?
That's my favorite question. God, the presence of God and calling, being here at the Foundry. I think that's what keeps us a lot of us right here, Eddie and Tawana and all of us, is that God's moving here. Okay, we see the people that are coming through our program that are hurting. We see it in their eyes. We see it in their lives. And then we see them get sent out as graduates, and then we get to follow them on social media platforms, or just seeing them coming back as alumni, and that's hard. That's a hard thing to leave. When you see God moving in such tangible ways, it's hard to leave that. So, and I wanted to dedicate my life to giving back. The only thing I've known so far in my life was the history of my drug abuse and how that put me in a position and positioned me to help other people. And you mix that with a calling and the Spirit of God, you got something special.
As a medication, I've taken opioids before,
right?
And they do a little bit to numb the pain, but it's a little bit different than like some of the highs and other stuff associated with other drugs.
Right?
Can you explain a little bit about what an opioid, when used at this level, what it does to you?
Sure.
How it hooks you.
So a couple things. When you start speaking of an opioid in the sense of it being pharmaceutical, there's a justification behind that and saying, hey, this is safe, this is okay.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when the pharmaceutical companies are pushing it as that much and overprescribing it, sending it out to the masses. So you have that going early on. So when you start taking the medication, hey, this is okay. This is, I feel great and I can do all these things and it's legal and, it's okay. It's not an illicit drug, so to speak, in terms of methamphetamines, heroin. It doesn't have that dark underline to it. And so in the sense of what opiates did for me, they really just put you in a place of state of mind that you numb any pain, emotional pain, physical pain. And so if you can imagine going through your daily activities with feeling just as good as you've ever felt, and you can't express how good you feel once you get to a point where you build up tolerance and you take a certain amount of opioids to where you can go about your day and be successful. And that's a part of the thing too that kind of hurts you, because you do experience some success early in addiction, and then you get to the point where you feel like you can't be successful without it. And so that's part of the addiction for me. It wasn't that I ever wanted to be a drug addict. I latched on to something that made me feel amazing, and without it, I felt terrible. And so the highs and lows were just as dramatic as anything else. You feel as good as you're ever going to feel, but you feel as worse as you're ever going to feel without it. And so that, to me, that was the differences between methamphetamines and any other drug that really is taking over right now, is you kind of see that. You see someone that's taking meth for a few days, they've been up for 3 or 4 days, they start showing real signs that they're on drug. With opioids, you could really do this for multiple years without anybody ever knowing. And again, you feel like you're the most interesting person in the room. You feel good about everything you do, and you can't get down. And that's hard to give up once you get used to doing it. So
if there's someone watching right now and what you just said speaks to their experience, what would you say to that person?
I would say that if you're in a place that you feel like that you need a chemical to make you feel better, then there's a problem. There's never a place in your life to where you feel like that you have to take a pill or any substance that should make you feel better. There's some underlying issues there that needs to be addressed. A lot of times that's your relationship with Christ, and that's where I would start at.
And what would their next step be, in your opinion?
If they're dealing with it now,
yeah.
Their next step would be to go to someone they can trust and tell the truth. Get it out in the open. Let some light shed on it, because a lot of times this is a secret between them and maybe dealers or a few friends that they're associating with. But the people who love them the most need to hear about this so they can support them, bring it to the light, and then address it head on.
Yeah. I think our main concern is people reconciling who they actually are versus this kind of hidden version of themselves.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times when you're
Exhausting to live two lives, you know.
yeah,
So
even without drugs,
Yeah.
you know, if you're trying to hide,
yeah,
maybe not hide who you are, but there's this version of you that addiction, it's really easy.
right.
But even people who have other types of addictions that aren't chemical,
Yeah,
they're
for
like,
sure.
I mean, I've had that in my life
Yeah.
where I've had certain things that kept me from my family, me from God. And those weren't the true versions of me.
That's right.
There was something like controlling my life.
Mhm.
But it's just so dangerous with drugs because it's not just a thing that's controlling your life. It's got you're chemically controlled.
Oh, yeah.
Man, it's
Yeah, you're a prisoner for sure, and you're held hostage by the chemical.
yeah. Let's talk about the program. You've been running it for 11 years, or
Well, 14 years technically,
yeah.
but I came through the program in 2008, so I sort of count that as some experience. So
You've been running it for over a decade,
Yeah.
and lots has changed.
lots have changed over the years for sure.
And the newest change is the Give and Grow Weeks.
Oh, yes,
It's been very, very good.
yes,
I wish you guys could have been here on campus before and after Give and Grow Weeks. Obviously, the program's been great for a long time.
yeah,
But the difference between the energy
yeah,
of the campuses right now.
Yeah.
I love the feeling that you're okay. I love the feeling where people are here and they're eager to learn,
yeah.
which is something that is a little bit hard to catch that spirit.
It
But
really is.
people are walking around with their workbooks,
Yeah.
and I see them around studying and getting ready for the day a lot.
Yeah.
And it's been good.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, going back a little bit to over 15 programs that I've been a part of, and not successfully, but there's multiple reasons behind that. But being a part of the Foundry for 15 years and seeing how we've adapted and changed and grown and matured, but the brilliance is the new program. It really is. It is exciting to see what you just said about program participants walking around. They're eager to grow. That is hard to capture in a program. There's a lot of programs that want that there is a systematic buy-in to the program, and so that to me is the greatest thing I've seen so far. But again, the idea behind the Give and Grow, to be able to balance that, to have 1 week to where you're immersed in classroom settings and you're letting Jesus move in your life, and the same as when you're giving too, but it's just a different dynamic. You're actually going in a practice field, so to speak, that week and developing habits and growing and having responsibilities, and then you go back and do it again, and you do this for 6 months, and it's an amazing dynamic. And at the same time, when you're in your grow classes, the type of curriculum that we're able to go over with them is producing what you're saying in terms of that buy-in, because it strikes a nerve in them.
Yeah.
And that's the same nerve that needs to be nurtured and protected that caused them to be put in a position where they were chemically dependent.
Yeah. I think we talk about like college campuses a little bit as a correlation. I think it's a very good correlation.
Yeah.
Because for me, my greatest growth in life was during college, and it's because I've got the free time to work,
Yeah.
but I'm also going to classes a lot.
Yeah.
And so I'm getting lots of life experience all at once.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're doing here, is
Yes.
we're mimicking, hey, you've got to learn a little bit about what's going on with you.
That's right.
But also you need to go out there and get some real world experience. Go out and work a little bit, go out and
Yeah.
serve at a church, serve in this location.
Yeah.
And, we use the word serve, that's, or growing or giving. We use the word give a lot because we want it to be an attitude of, giving yourself freely,
Yeah.
right? And having a better mentality than the slog of a job. It's about being positive about the everyday and things that you normally don't have.
Yeah. It's interesting too, I think there's some value in whatever you find your hands to do, you do it with all your might. But at the same time, finding peace at that.
Yeah.
A lot of times for people that come to us, they just really didn't have peace or joy in where they were working. But I think you have to learn to have peace no matter where you are. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity for whatever you find your hands to do, that you find the peace of God that surpasses all understanding in those situations. And that carries over to each week. You don't go from growing in classroom settings, say, oh, I get to do this, now I'm finally about recovery. No, recovery continues on into the next week too. And it's about attitude. It's your attitude going into that. And I promise you that God will make moves in your lives if you find peace in what you do, And if you're going to to work, or if you're having these life experiences miserable, then there's only, that's a dead end.
Yeah.
So
I've even been in good jobs that I liked and cared about, but I was miserable.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it had everything to do with what was going on with
That's
me,
right.
and nothing to do with what was going on with the job.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think, if you're chemically dependent and the only thing you care about is whatever drug of choice you have, it doesn't matter if you ever get your dream job. Lots of people get the dream job, a better dream job than even what I can think of for myself. They're still miserable.
One of my favorite parts of my testimony is when I first came to Foundry in 2008, that I was put on the trash, the job. There's a job for everybody, right? People's got to clean toilets. So this has to happen.
Yeah.
And so I was put on the trash, and I was thinking, what did I do wrong here, And God moved in my life and said, look, if you can't find peace here doing this trash, you can't find peace anywhere else in your life. And that happened. And throughout the time I was here, I got to the point where there was literal a song in my heart. And when I went down to the thrift store to dump trash, I was so happy about it. It really was. I was just peace in my life. And let me tell you what that led me into. It gave me an opportunity to work in administration, which I've never done before. Never had any experience doing it. But the program director at that time came and said, look, you're doing great. I really appreciate you and would like to give you a shot here at the administration office. And so if I didn't do that there, I would never have had peace. It would have been just another job, And so that's a piece of my recovery that I hope that I can share with other people that come through our program.
So talk a little bit about working with men in the program.
Yeah.
Obviously there while we do all this.
Yeah.
What's the part of the job that keeps you going?
Yeah. The part of the job that keeps me going the most, and you touched on it a few minutes ago, is seeing the smiles on people's faces that are genuine. I get the opportunity to do classes here, and we got some really good curriculum that we're doing. And so seeing them actually engage in those classes, and seeing from day one when they walk in and take their first intake picture to maybe a week later, 2 weeks later, to seeing the Holy Spirit in their life and seeing the Spirit of God illuminate their face and see that they're a different person. Graduation, I love hearing and seeing the families at graduation. I love them coming across the stage with those nerves, the excitement of what they've accomplished. Just multiple stories of people that come through our program that go out and have new careers that are, I love visitation day. I love pass day on Friday evenings when someone's going to pass. And I can remember one to where a person was going to pass and his two twin daughters came to the front door and said, Daddy, Daddy, and they both jumped up and he's hugging his daughters. Those are the things that I know that, maybe a few months later for him, that wasn't the atmosphere, That's total restoration. So I can go on and on about it. I tend to try to find those things and look at those things, and in the day-to-day stuff, just being able to mentor and pour into to the guys in the administration office or anyone we come in contact with. So it's a pure joy, So I really enjoy those things for the most part, but I'll get to do that today, And so when I come into work, I'm not coming for a paycheck. I'm thrilled I get paid. But that's why I come to work, stuff like that. So
you talked about graduation, which we just had one.
Yeah.
And I think graduation means something different for staff members than it does for anybody else in the state of Alabama.
Yeah.
When I graduated from high school, it was more of like, thank God that time of my life is over. Like I was just ready to move on.
Yeah, you actually graduated in your mind that before you walked to the front door that year. So I get it.
The same thing with college. I was already working and doing stuff, and my graduation ceremony is more of like a formality.
Yeah.
Like you graduated and didn't mean anything, that's kind of what it felt like.
That makes sense.
When people graduate and everybody has different experiences with graduation, but people who graduate from Foundry, they have literally just completed the hardest thing they'll ever do in their life.
100%. Yeah. The certificate that you get from the Foundry should be hung on the wall right beside any graduate certificate.
Yeah, I agree.
It is probably the most, takes some of the most courageous people to do this. And to see it through, and to face all of the disaster they made of their life, only to come out victorious in the end, is one of the greatest accomplishments they'll ever do in their life. And a lot of them know that, hey, that this is just the beginning. We're talking 9 months that they get to this place in their life, and they know this is just the beginning of where God's taken them in their life. And so, it is an amazing accomplishment. for them. And again, you can see it and for their families. Think about their families that's been going through this with them, and they get to watch their loved one go across the stage and receive a certificate that they've completed it. So it's incredible.
So there are 20 million Americans that are suffering with addiction right now.
Yeah.
And so every time we see 20 people go across the stage,
Yeah.
that's 20 people that overcame addiction.
Yes.
Where the 20 million others
That's right.
were not capable of it in that moment. You know, so I mean, it's a huge. The celebration for us is John Norris. For them, it's even bigger.
Yeah.
And
It really is.
I think we'll have 130-ish graduates this year, people who stuck it out with us for 6 months, 9 months.
Incredible numbers too, in comparison to other programs that are trying to, and they're all doing great jobs, but again, that success rate speaks for itself. And those guys and ladies that are going across the stage are permanently transformed too.
Yeah.
We're not just, it's just not just walking across the stage because you check some boxes. This is the greatest box of all time. Their relationships with Jesus are intact, and so their calling and purpose is right in front of their face now, and so they're in a position to go and accomplish those things too. So.
Yeah. Speaking a little bit more on the what our program and how we differentiate ourselves. A lot of these programs you'll see, and I'm going to brag on us a little bit.
Yeah.
A lot of these programs you see are 30, 60 days they're graduating.
Yeah.
And the vast majority of the people who come to our program make it through 30 and 60 days.
Yeah.
If we were a 60-day program, we would look incredible on paper.
Yeah.
Right. But we make a dedication.
Yeah.
A lot of times, and I've done a lot of testimonies with participants you've always spoken to.
Mm-hmm.
The vast majority of participants took drugs at some level of adolescence when they were teenagers. And so many of them have never known an adult life without some kind of drug that affects their personality, their behavior at some level. And many of them were addicted well before they were adults.
Yeah.
I've spoken to many of them who were 10, 11, 12, 13, who were already hooked on alcohol or some other harder. I've heard of some that were on much harder drugs. They were already partying at 14, doing, and so at no fault of their own,
Right.
They're dealing with an addiction,
Yeah.
and they get here, and that's not going to change in a 30-day program,
No.
and not even a 60-day program is like a little bit iffy on if you can make any movement on it.
Yeah.
And so our dedication is that you need to be here on campus for 6 months.
That's right.
And even then, we have 3 months after that where they're doing stuff.
That's right.
For up to 9 months. And even then, we say, hey, we've given you 9 months of care.
Yeah.
We're going to dedicate another 2 years at Change Lives Christian Center or whatever time at Esther House. And so we're saying, hey, we're in this for the long haul.
That's right.
And you don't know what adult life may even be yet without a drug. So we're going to give you that time you need. So for us, a graduate walking across the stage for us is a really big deal.
Yeah, it
because
is.
that means you stuck it out for 9 months, 6 months, 9 months longer.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's to see 30 people on stage
right.
that all did that for 9 months. I mean, they might have done something that I'm not capable of doing.
It's a possibility. It really is, because they've been through some tough stuff.
Yeah.
And it puts them in a position to do that and to be able to kind of grin and bear it. But then it gets to the point to realize it's not that hard. It's all about just living out my purpose, It's funny you say that earlier about the maturity and how you stop developing and you start using drugs. I don't think I turned 18 until I turned 35. So, and another thing too about the family of the Foundry, and our CEO Mike Andrews says it best when he says it's not about who we bring in, it's about who we send out. And we'll always measure our success by who we send out, and that's with staff and program participants. And so, you can have someone that's been here 10 years ago that walks in the front office that's doing well. We greet them like their own staff. We greet them like they are family. That's what makes this place special, And so we continuously thrive to see people that are out there living their best life because they turned around here, And so that speaks to our heart and our success, So again, that's what keeps the staff here for 100 years, That's why the 3 directors are in place and probably will never go anywhere. So
Yeah. I have a hard time believing that I'll ever see Tawana and Eddie be anywhere.
Me too. That's what I'm telling you. I'm just kind of just watching to see if they go first. I don't know, but I agree that they're just when someone's operating in their calling, why move? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know what I'm saying? And they continue to add value to this place. And so there's no reason to. So,
Okay, so we just talked a lot about life change with the participants, and graduation just happened this Sunday. And so life change is on the mind for a bunch of us for staff. And a lot of times when, obviously I'm on the development team and I'm fundraising a lot. So one of the ways I like to fundraise is to make the numbers small and manageable.
Yeah.
So like our Genesis workbooks, which are incredible, things like $30 to buy a workbook. So I like asking, or maybe a meal costs $2. So if you could give 10 meals, that's $20. I have a different ask for you today. And it's not even really a financial ask. I don't want you to pull out your wallet and put in your credit card information or anything like that. But there is a number for how much it costs us to keep a participant here at the program for 1 month. And that number is about $1,250. So to provide the food, the bed, one-on-one counseling, teachers, curriculum, all this stuff. When you pile all that together, the cost for us is about $1,250. And we just talked about it's about 6 months at the program. So you multiply you get about $7,500 that it costs us to get a participant from point A to graduation. $7,500 is a lot of money. And I'm not asking you for $7,500 today, but I want you to consider what $7,500 really means, because it sounds like a lot of money. But to take someone who didn't have hope for their future, who is in the throes of addiction.
That's right.
And I won't tell the stories today, but I've heard a lot of stories that they're going from nothing to something.
Yeah.
And that something is hope in the future. They've got God on their side. They've learned about their addiction. They've made it 6 months in a program, and it only costs $7,500.
Yeah.
And for most of them, it's nothing out of pocket for them. We do have an intake fee, and if they can't afford it, we'll usually find a church or another partner that will pay that intake fee. At most, they're $695 in, and that's it. And they can find life change, they can find God and find hope, and it's an incredible process. My ask for you today is to think about that number, $7,500, because there's lots of ways for $7,500 to be made, because it's not just about the gift you give today getting us to $7,500 if you give today, but there's lots of ways that, in my opinion, I truly believe that Central Alabama, Northern Alabama, we have all of the resources at our disposal to conquer the epidemic of addiction that's happening in our area. We have the resources. Now, how are we pulling these resources together and doing the hard work, getting it done? And these resources aren't financial resources. It's your time, your talents, your ability to be here, your heart for life change, knowing your Savior and bringing that knowing to someone else. Those are all tools that you have. So there's a couple of things that you can do. You can pray. We're entering our year, the giving time of the year where people start giving. Pray that people will give and they'll be generous. Maybe you want to give this morning or this afternoon or whenever you're watching it. We're totally fine with that, obviously. But are you here serving? Do you have the time to serve? I think you should be here.
Yeah.
I mean, we have people coming at lunches, speaking while they're eating lunch, speaking life change. You could be a mentor. You could teach a class. You could be here.
Yeah.
And that we raised $7,500 to get a participant through. If you're here doing stuff, that number was a little bit less, right? So you could be here speaking life change. And in fact, you being here doing stuff makes more graduates. And more people get to the stage if you're here doing stuff, right? But also having like-minded people here, it's incredible for their journey. But you also have other resources. You've got connections. You also know people who might need the service, and your influence could get them here. So my challenge for you today is $7,500. What does that mean to you? And you know what? I don't have to tell you what it is. God is probably speaking to you right now, saying that you've got something that you can give, and it's probably not financial, right? But there's something you can give. Maybe it's advocacy. Maybe it's sharing this video, but maybe it's sharing your story and sharing why you give, why you participate at the Foundry. So my challenge to you throughout the day, write down that $7,500 number, post-it note to your monitor, put it in your car, put it on your mirror. I want you to think about that number. Think about what life change means to you. And I encourage you to take an action. Take a small action, a big action. But you could take an action today on that.
Yeah.
But don't want to be too heavy. But just thinking about life change and thinking about all the great things happening here, I really hope that people feel it like we feel it, right? And I mean, we're just so glad that you're watching and that you're participating already. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for spending a little bit of time with me this morning. And I think next month I'm going to try to get Quinn Barefield.
All right.
That'd be a fun one. I have to figure out the camera because he's so tall that, we're like a similar here, but he's like, so I have to readjust the camera and figure that out. But Quinn is over our Enterprises, and man, Enterprises has gone through a dramatic transformation over the last few years. And those are some of the smartest people on the campus, and they're doing lots of good things. They have to juggle a bunch of different jobs to make it all happen.
Yeah, they are.
They're doing good, so I can't wait for that. But hey, join us next month. Sign up for AL Leader Summit. If you're at all interested, you should go to foundryministries.com/AL Summit or AL Leader and learn more about that. But thank you for joining. We'll see you next month.